It's Jordan Mulligan from the Mulliganbrothers, and today's interview highlight is with Amy Morin, author of the best-selling book, 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. A book I 100% recommend going to read, and luckily, the sponsor of our video is audible.com, and they are giving away a free copy of the book if you click the link in the description to audible.com. Thank you to audible.com for making this possible. For me, this was really interesting. Amy has been through difficult times herself. We all go through traumatic experiences within our life, but Amy has been through some traumatic experiences which led her on to do good things. For me, it is a very interesting thing to understand why somebody would do that. Why after trauma and hard times would someone decide to do something good instead of being filled with a negative time in your life, going to do something bad. So it's a very interesting conversation to me, and it's a question that I asked Amy here today. So let's dive into one of the best people to speak about this, Amy Morin, on why she chose to do something good and why maybe we should all decide to do something good. Yeah, I mean, that image of, clocking in for every single day of the week, and we get up in the morning, we go to work, we clock out, we go home, there's no enjoyment in there. It's funny that you say that. Is like that is just exactly what all of us did at Mulliganbrothers. Luke, William, myself, like we all did that, and we didn't have that enjoyment. And it's like I know some people who stop and look up and they've not enjoyed the journey, and they go, how the hell did I get here? Like, how did I arrive here? It is really interesting.
Right, and I think it's because a lot of people will say, I was working really hard to pay my bills, and I was getting the bills paid, but then I always needed a new car, I needed to upgrade, or we needed a bigger house, and then I felt like I needed to earn more money. And then at some point they say, well, why? Why do I need more money? Well, if I didn't have as much money, then maybe I wouldn't drive as nice a car, but how important is it to me to drive that nice car? Or maybe we wouldn't take as many exotic vacations, but what could we do with it instead? And at some point in our lives, I hope most of us start to really evaluate that time versus money question. Like, how important is money to me versus time? You need a certain amount of money to be able to enjoy your free time, and where that line is going to be a little different for any of us, but to know you can always make more money, but the one thing you can't ever make more of is going to be time.
With your experience so far, going through and experiencing life throughout the world, is like, what do you think life is about?
I feel like it's about learning and growing, and then giving back, taking the experiences that we've had and figuring out how do you teach other people, how do you help other people figure out what they're going through, not in a preachy sort of a way where you get in their face and tell them they need to make changes, but how can you inspire people or motivate them through your own actions? How can you make sure that once your needs are met, how can you help other people who have unmet needs in their lives?
Why decide to help people? Like, is there something that's like attractive to you about helping somebody or making someone else's life better? Like, what was the reason that you chose to do helping people?
Yeah, it sounds like, on the surface, it sounds like I'm going to help people because I think other people need my help. Reality, helping other people helps me just as much, which sounds cliche, but we know that from the research, that when we feel like we're needed, it's a really good thing. When we feel like we're part of a community, when we're working on goals, when we're doing something and we have a sense of belonging, that's really good for our mental health. Study after study will show that making more money doesn't necessarily improve your mental health, but it does, being part of a community where you feel like you have a sense of belonging.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we never knew why. We didn't have a why as to why we wanted to create motivational, inspirational videos. Like, if we couldn't make money out of it, we would have done a run-of-the-mill job to be able to fund doing this because it felt good. Like, helping people felt good, and it's like, that's a lovely feeling. That's what drives it, that helping somebody else feels nice. Even if it sounds selfish, it does feel nice to help somebody else. At the moment, where is the best place to find resources of Amy Morin? Like, what's the best direction you would point somebody in right now?
So right now, most of my time goes towards working on the Variable Mind podcast. So I get to interview people about mental strength and give out some of my own tips. I have a workbook coming out next year as a companion to the first book, because so many people were saying, I read your book, now I just need to know how else can I apply these things to my life, or I want more. So I have a workbook that's filled with mental strength exercises and strategies so that people can fill in the blanks. I ask reflective questions and people can say, okay, this is how I'm going to apply it to my life. And then after that, I'm going to figure out what the next book is after that.
As an author, you know, you have goals obviously set that I'm going to finish this book, and it's like, how do you find to manage that, to not get too invested in those goals? Like, is there a way of balancing it all?
Yeah, so writing books is interesting. I'm fortunate that a lot of my readers ask questions that I just naturally love to answer, so I can answer some of them on the podcast. Some of them are bigger questions that I get to write a whole book about. And so I'm still excited about it. And as long as people keep buying my books and asking questions, it's still things that I want to do. Luckily, I write fast. After being a therapist for so many years, the stories and the same things that I was telling my therapy clients, I can put it on paper and it happens really fast, which makes the writing process, I wouldn't say fun all the time, because that's not true. There are days that is definitely not fun, but a lot of times it's a wonderful thing, and I thoroughly enjoy sitting and writing and making something actually come to life.
So there was this notion recently, not too long ago, that if you wanted to be successful in life, the journey had to suck, and it was supposed to be difficult and hard, and you weren't supposed to have any fun. And obviously now that's kind of changing a little bit, but like, how do you find and make sure that you do find fun in that journey of success, and you do find happiness along the way?
I think it's so important. We spend so many hours a week at work, no matter what you do. If you're an entrepreneur, you work at a company, whatever it is you do, you're going to spend a lot of time and energy doing it. And I think our attitude reflects greatly in what kind of work that we do too. I've had jobs in the past that I've absolutely hated, and I dreaded getting up on Monday morning. I dreaded going to work. That is absolutely no way to live. And I saw my parents not love the work that they do too, and it was more of a way to earn money to pay the bills rather than something that they were excited about going to every day. So the fact that I now live in a world where we can be excited, there's so many opportunities, and you can say, I'm going to choose how I spend my time and how I make my money, I think is an opportunity we should all try to take advantage of.
Is it a point of longevity, waking up most days happy to do what you do?
For me, yes. So I hated school as a kid. I woke up every day and I was sick, physically ill, because I hated Monday mornings. I hated school so much. And so I had promised myself when I was like 8 years old, if I become an adult, I'm never going to do something that I absolutely hate, Sunday night I'd start to get sick. So as an adult, I think, I'm here. I get to do that now. I get to find something of how I want to spend my time, and I get to do it in an enjoyable way. And I'll never take that for granted, ever.
You know, obviously there are going to be tough days. It's not always going to be happy clappy. There will be the odd tough day, and I'm wondering, how do you deal with those days, in particular those tougher days?
Yeah, so sometimes I just say it out loud, and if I hear myself talking, like, okay, if my biggest problem is I live on a sailboat in the Florida Keys, and right now I'm struggling because I have this deadline I have to meet, or something. I'm like, okay, but my life's okay then. I think going through really, really tough times helps me keep things in perspective, and not to minimize. I still have days where I'm sad, or days when life is rough. And I don't minimize my pain by saying, well, at least you're not still grieving the loss of everybody in your life. I don't want to minimize it, but on the other hand, I can keep it in perspective and say, well, all right, this is a rough day, but you're not 8 years old vomiting before school every day, so it's really not that bad. Or I remind myself too, sometimes it's just about taking back my power and saying, well, you have choices. If this isn't fun for you anymore, you don't want to do this, well, go do something else. And then I quickly realize there's really nowhere else I'd want to be, or something else I'd want to be doing. But just that reminder, if I'm really struggling, I can take a vacation. I can take a day off. I can go do something else for a little while. I could take 6 months off if I wanted. But ultimately, no, it's usually just a rough patch, and I can get through this.
So we talk about like trusting emotions and trusting ourselves. How do you know that the emotion that's coming through is coming from a good place?
So we talk about emotions like they're good or they're bad. People will say like, well, anger is a bad emotion, but excitement is a good emotion. But then when you really think about it, like any feeling we have has the power to be helpful or hurtful at any given moment. So if you're sad for a day, maybe it helps you honor something that you lost. But if you're sad for 6 months and you can't get out of bed, it's going to become a problem in your life. Or when people say, I'm really excited about a vacation, that feels good. We want to be excited. But if somebody says, hey, I have this new business opportunity, you're going to get rich, and you just have to invest $1,000. If you're so excited about the fact that I just said you're going to get rich that you don't ask me any questions, well, then your emotions aren't helpful to you. And we don't really spend a lot of time talking about our feelings or identifying our emotions. We just tend to kind of go with them on a whim. or we don't really reflect, how might I be feeling today? So I think it's really important to check in with yourself. How do I feel? You might be anxious about something going on in your home life, and you show up at work and you have this new exciting work opportunity, but your anxiety from home spills over. There's research behind this that says you're going to say no to this work opportunity because you're anxious about something else altogether. But we don't pay enough attention to know, well, gee, why am I saying no to this? Well, I'm actually anxious because something happened with my mom yesterday, and now I'm kind of worried about that. Has nothing to do with what's right in front of you. So I think if we spend more time just focusing on, what do I feel right now? How's that emotion potentially affecting my choices and my behavior? We'd make a lot better decisions.
For us, we feel like there is a push sometimes, like, even though like it makes us happy and, we want to do this, but then some days when you don't want to do it, it's like there's almost like a push. There's a reason that we get out of bed, and you can't really pinpoint it, but it pushes you. Do you have that same feeling? Do you know like what is pushing you and what is driving you to get up early in those mornings to do that and to wake up and write?
So it's so important to have sort of a sense of meaning and purpose in life, so that even when we don't want to do something, as long as you know, well, there's meaning or purpose behind it. I might not want to help my friend move on Saturday because it's hot outside and I have better things to do, but the purpose is I want to be a good friend to this person. Or when I don't feel like sitting down and writing a book and editing it for the 15th time, well, I know there's a bigger meaning to it, that putting it out there in the world is going to be good for me, that it's an honor to be able to do it. So sometimes just stepping back and reminding ourselves of the why. Why is it important to do certain things even when we don't want to do it?
Thank you so much to Amy for giving us this piece of her story. It's a very interesting story. Through this process, she authored the book, 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do, a book I 100% recommend reading. Luckily today, the sponsor of the video is audible.com. They are giving away a free copy of an Audible book. 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do is available through the link in the description for free. So thank you to audible.com for doing that for us. Also, Mulliganbrothers.com, the purchases of the t-shirts, the journals, makes this possible. So thank you so much to them as well. For me, this has always been an amazing conversation and dialogue with Amy. I myself have been through traumatic experiences, and I myself like to think that I have chose to do something good on the back of that. I started here at Mulligan Brothers with Luke after something bad had happened to me. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why, but it definitely is a motivating factor. And I'm always interested to hear people why they chose a positive path when the conclusion for a lot of people would be that it would be the negative path. So if you've been through a similar experience, start a conversation down below. Head over to Amy's Instagram and let her know that you've watched the video, let her know that you've gained something from her, maybe let her know that you're about to read her book, say hello to her, so that is linked down below as well. Come say hello to me on Instagram at Jordan Mulliganbrother, and be a part of the Inspire Change movement by your actions, what you say, what you do, sharing this video, sharing other people's messages, and sharing your own story. Go inspire some change. Have a blessed and productive day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.